Hi, this is Vnensha Zevnensha. I finally decided to improve the functionality of the storage and wardrobe in the apartment where I live. And since I expect that there are also some places like that in your homes that could use a little improvement, I thought I'd show you how I'm tackling it and how it turned out. Maybe this will motivate you to make some changes in your own home and make better use of its space. I've already visited the wholesaler, and I have to admit, I'm a bit surprised that there weren't that many samples or solutions on display there. On one hand, yes, there was still a wide selection, but on the other hand, the samples were very small. And honestly, it's really hard to imagine anything more. And also, the solutions shown on the furniture where one piece has, I don't know, 10 different handles and every drawer opens differently, well, it's just kind of chaotic. I'm used to seeing solutions presented like in IKEA stores where the interiors are very cohesive and inspiring, encouraging you to recreate them in your own apartment. But here you really needed a lot of imagination to somehow apply these solutions to your own home. What might be important when ordering furniture from a wholesaler is definitely the sample books, because it's good to know how the colors you want to choose will look in your home. And I wanted to borrow a sample book, but it turned out that there are, in the color I'm interested in, samples. Well, calling them samples is a bit of an exaggeration. Just scraps, leftovers at the carpentry shop, small pieces of board that won't be used anymore. And I just got a tile, a piece of board to take home with me so I could compare the color. If I wanted to borrow a sample, that's not a problem. There's just a deposit, and the deposit is the price of the sample. And you can also just order a sample online beforehand. Just buy it, and then it will come to you. You won't have to go back and forth, so that's also an option. It's worth checking which manufacturer's boards are available at the wholesaler you're considering. If you're planning to work with a designer, there's a good chance the designer will have such a sample book themselves. However, if you're working on your own, then it's worth making the effort and just checking the color, because sometimes on those samples in store lighting, it really looks different. I'd rather spend a little more time on it, but when it comes to these colors, make sure that it's exactly what you're looking for. You order furniture boards by the piece, and the one I ordered is 210 by 280. And if we wanted to order a few more shelves that wouldn't fit on that one board, it's not possible to cut them all from one board. Then we simply have to buy two full boards, even though we really don't need most of the second one. That's why it's sometimes worth sketching out how much space the materials we're ordering will actually take up, because it might turn out that we can make something extra without actually paying anything more for it. In this wardrobe, there were originally 6 clothes rods, here and here for long dresses, and on this side, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. There were only 4 shelves up there. But I partially removed those rods because I just didn't need to hang that many clothes. And gradually I started making various changes. I added a shelving unit, which is actually quite shallow and not very spacious, but it fit nicely into that niche. Now there are some blankets lying a bit messy on top. But that electric blanket is a fantastic solution. If you get cold easily, I really recommend electric blankets. And on this side, it's kind of a mess, and there definitely should be some shelves here, because I think all these things hanging here would easily fit on one. And 2 more shelves here above the dresser, because the dresser is too tall anyway, so you can't hang anything here. And those fabric shelves, like I mentioned, aren't very convenient. They're uneven and also narrow. It's hard to store anything there. And honestly, I expect that everything on these shelves here will also fit on one regular large shelf. Here I have a piece of board from the wholesaler, and you can see that this gray is very similar to what was here before. It might be a little darker, it's not exactly the same shade, but for me it's definitely satisfying. It will definitely blend in much better here than if I had chosen a white board. And look, when I hold it at an angle, the light falls differently, the color looks different, and you could actually think it's the same color as before. In the storage room, the situation is that I have a few larger items that take up space on the floor, while up here the space is completely empty. Originally in this closet, because it was also used as a closet, there were 3 clothing rods, one here, another here, and a third one higher up. I sometimes use the one closest to me for jackets that we use regularly. However, I removed the one in the back because when something was hanging there, there was absolutely no access to any larger items that could be placed on the floor. This storage space is large on one hand, but on the other hand, because it's relatively deep and narrow, it's hard to access the things in the back. But I hope that until I find a solution, I want to make 2 deep shelves in this spot. One will be for equipment, the other for the mattress, and then the space on the floor will get a bit more organized and everything will be easier to access. To start, one of the most important steps in this kind of project is measuring. I'll be able to check all the distances in 2 ways. A laser distance meter is much more convenient because I just place it and immediately get the result. I don't have to look closely to see exactly how many millimeters are on the tape measure. The laser distance meter is definitely one of my favorite tools. If I make a mistake while measuring and order shelves that are too big and they don't fit here, that would be bad. If I ordered the wrong color, well, that's not such a big deal. Well, they're just shelves in the closet, so it wouldn't matter that much. However, the measurements are crucial. And that's not such a simple matter because the walls are crooked, and in my case, the furniture boards to which the shelves will be attached are also a bit uneven. Therefore, you just have to expect some gaps. And it's better to adjust them to the smallest dimension so that there's a gap because the bracket will hold it anyway, rather than ordering ones that are too big and won't fit in here at all. So pay attention to that. And if the gaps really bother you, of course, you can always do something about them. I'll be honest with you, I don't like drilling because the drill is really loud and it's just unpleasant. That's why I'm glad I had some help this time, especially since I had a terrible headache that day. We left the shelves in the closet for the next day, and here I was able to do a little more myself too. Both drilling into the wall and drilling into the board aren't very difficult. I think drilling into the board is easier. Here, all you need is a drill driver, a bit of strength, and it really goes smoothly. With the wall, there's a bit more mess and the noise is not very pleasant. However, in both cases, the key is to measure properly so you simply avoid making a hole where you don't want one. Because if it's the back of a cabinet or something, then it's okay. But if we were to screw into the panel or board in the wrong place and then later wanted to move the shelf, unfortunately there would be a hole left behind. And those holes from screwing in the screws yourself aren't as nice as those neat, evenly spaced holes in modular kitchen cabinets. Nevertheless, you can also buy a cover, like a round sticker, and it's not a problem. You can cover up such a hole, so if you make a mistake, don't worry, everything can still be fixed watching the episodes. This is how the wardrobe looks after the changes. On this side, the shelves are not fully filled yet. Clothes have appeared here. At the bottom, there are things for sewing, but I think I need to replace this box with a bigger one because it doesn't fit anymore. Now I have easy access to pants, sweaters, and skirts here. I left this hanger because the hangers can hang here perfectly. And thanks to that, there's order and tidiness. And I like to put empty hangers aside because when I hang up the laundry, I can just grab them all at once. They're easy to reach, and I know how many I have. And it's just easier for me to stay organized this way. There are clothes on these higher shelves too, but there aren't any on the very top ones. There's an iron up there, and here are some books. And these are books that were in different piles in different places in the bedroom. I think I've started most of them. I'm in the middle of reading them, but somehow I keep jumping from one to another, so now I've put them all here. And I'll just take them one by one to finish them. And when I finish one, then I take it to the living room. I put them on the shelves by matching colors, since I organize my books that way. As you can see here, it's not like everything is perfectly measured. There's a slight gap there. It's just that this recess was widening towards the wall. But it's not a problem. I don't even notice the gap anymore. Once things show up here, you won't see it at all. By the way, in the old shelves too, some of the brackets, those angle brackets, were replaced. This one was already broken here. The shelf was held up by 3 screws, or actually 2. And now there's a new one here. Maybe it's not a perfect fit because it's a bit of a different size than what was here before. But it's better than nothing. I wouldn't want anything to fall down here. But still, those plastic parts after 20 years, well, it's not the same. I definitely trust metal hardware more. Interestingly, these old shelves have these little strips attached to them. Oh, it's the first time I've taken it off. Now the question is, can I put it back on? Yes, I did it. And that's also a nice solution because these strips are soft and rounded. And on these new shelves, as you can see, the edges are a bit sharp because they've already gotten a bit dusty. And for me, that's not a problem, but I know that different people have different sensitivities. And simply, when reaching somewhere deep inside, you can sometimes accidentally scrape your hand. And when the edge is sharp, well, it's not exactly a pleasant experience. But with rounded ones, there's no problem. Here I have a basket for socks. When I take laundry off the drying rack and a sock doesn't have a pair, I immediately put it here. And then sometimes I go through them. I can already see here that one just found its pair. One was apparently in one load, the other in another. Now I can take them to my son's drawer. As for the rest, they'll wait to be sorted another time. 2 new shelves are now in the storage closet. One is for cleaning supplies and equipment, and the other is for the mattress. It's very unusual, but as you can see, if the mattress were just lying here loose, it would clutter up the whole storage closet, and it definitely wouldn't be convenient. And now there's space here. I can easily grab the vacuum cleaner. Nothing will fall over, and both mops are easy to reach. I use this one more often for quick cleanups. It works great because it already has water in it. This mop is really great, honestly. You probably remember I once recorded a sponsored episode featuring it, but now I've had it for over a year and I can confirm that it still works fantastically. The table was placed here. It's not very handy. I don't know what to do with it, but thanks to it I have things both on the bottom and on the top, and I can reach for them without having to take one off the other. Of course, it's not like access to everything here is perfect. Let's be honest. To take out the mattress, you'll probably have to move this aside somehow. The mop also gets in the way a bit here, but still the accessibility is much better than it was before. Before, things were stacked on top of each other and it was a mess, but now it's really nice. And I hope that I'll be able to keep this kind of order, because it really is order, for a longer time. How much did this whole thing cost? For the board and having it cut, I paid 423 zlotys and some change. The brackets and those angle brackets cost about 50 zlotys. So altogether, I managed to stay under 500 zlotys. Of course, I have a drill and a power screwdriver, so that made things easier. If someone doesn't have any tools, then they'd probably have to get some, but you can always borrow them. Probably each of us has someone among our friends who is better equipped, and they can simply lend us some tools. What's more, for that price, I also have 4 additional shelves at my disposal. They're 0.5 meter by 1 meter in size. I might use them in the basement, maybe in the garage, I'll see. Or maybe one of my friends could use them. They definitely won't go to waste, And actually, they were included in the price because, as I mentioned earlier, we're buying the whole board and not just parts of it. So think about it, because maybe you already have an idea for how to use them. It would be a shame if the material you've already bought didn't get used. I hope you feel inspired, because my shelves waited for a few years to be made. Maybe yours too, thanks to some motivation. The motivation I'm trying to give you might help you get things done a bit faster. If you have a bigger project planned, something more advanced, like an entire kitchen, it's definitely worth getting help from professionals, experienced carpenters and designers. But when it comes to simpler things like my shelves, I think it's worth doing it on your own. Of course, it all depends on your budget, how much time you have, and whether you even want to take on something like this. But if you're looking to save money, then it's definitely often worth doing the labor yourself. If you'd like to know more about doing different things on your own, let me know in the comments which topics interest you, because I assume that if you don't have experience, even just telling apart various furniture boards, countertops, and cabinet fronts can already be a challenge. I'd be happy to tell you more about it in detail sometime. Just let me know which topics are especially important to you. And now I invite you to watch our other videos and subscribe to the channel. And soon we'll publish another great home tour, so make sure to stay tuned. Bye.